plow ahead. Is that okay with all of you? Yes?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's a thrilling day, so I'm just going to plow ahead.
I snowed up by me.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Do you want to?
I was going to introduce all of you.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay.
Good morning, I'm Mario Roth, and I'm the grade level administrator for this class. And I just wanted to welcome everybody and introduce our fine panel that will give you a lot of very, very helpful and very valuable information. Director of College and Career Center, Sue Carroll. Super counselors, and yes, they are better than the others, I'll say that. Okay. Rose Barash and Ann Vernon, and our coordinator, director of our internship program, Kelly Dalmazia. Okay, I'll leave you in good hands.
All right. Well, good. I think we're going to start out with introducing or allowing Kelly to introduce herself to you to tell you what's another thing that's up ahead for your kids as they become seniors next year. Kelly?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I hope you're doing well on this gloomy day. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to kind of share about the senior internship program so you kind of know what's to come for your juniors for next year. So a little bit of background about the program. It started 13 years ago. And our founder is here today, Miss Sue, started the program. And when she started, it started with just a few students, and now 98% of students participate in the program. So, you know, I think it's really great that it's not required, but students definitely see the value in the program. And so basically all of the seniors do participate in the program. There's definitely some wonderful benefits of the program. You know, obviously it provides students with a hands-on experience in a professional work setting where, you know, many of our students have never been in that type of setting before. It provides students with some, developing some soft skills. They would normally walk away learning a new skill. They are provided with connections, and they begin to build a network. It's obviously wonderful for them to be able to put on a resume. They definitely are at advantage because when they go to apply for internships in college, and some of these internships may be competitive, the fact that they've had an internship before and they can speak to that internship, employers love to see that they've had experience, and so that really puts our students, at a great advantage. So there are two types of internships. So the first is a self-design. The self-design is where students or parents go out and find their own internship and really tailor it to meet the needs of what your student may want. Some guidelines around that. We do ask it has to be within a 30-mile radius, and that's really for liability and for our students and our school insurance to cover the students. However, we do, if it's outside of the 30-mile radius, we do allow remote internships. It's not preferred, but they are allowed. In addition, students that are doing self-design cannot do it with a family member, and they can't choose from our database of internship sites that we provide students. So if you, I will send out a list to students when applications go out so they can kind of see who we're posted with to make sure that they're not self-designing with those sites. If you are a type A parent and, are starting to kind of maybe put some feelers out over the summer and just want to know, or even now, if it's a site that we have in our database, you're always more than welcome to reach out to me and I can provide you with that information. And then the other is just the traditional where students select from our database. I will say we have a very impressive database thanks to an amazing community and for parents like you all that have made referrals to companies and organizations. So, a wide range from finance to marketing and interior design, legal services. So when students select from our database, we ask that they select 15 sites and they rank them. We have them select 15 and we ask that they're happy with all 15 because some sites are more popular than others. So some sites, there might be every 40 students have it as their first choice. So that way if there's 15, they're going to typically get within their top 5. Timeline, so students will start applying in December. I will have them apply when college applications are done because I know I'm sure it's a very stressful time for the students and obviously for you all. So that will not go out until college applications are done. And then we conduct these mini interviews for all the students. We do ask the students to take it serious. We treat them very professional. I think it's a great opportunity for students who may have never interviewed, or even students that have interviewed. I know even for me and probably all of us now, interviewing can definitely be overwhelming and nerve-wracking. So it's a great opportunity for students to practice these interview skills and in a safe space. So that happens. And then just some general information. So the internships are typically 3 to 4 weeks long, 25 hours a week, 5 hours typically a day. Students receive 2 trainings to help prepare them for their internship and future internships. They are paired with a faculty mentor. So the faculty mentor does site visits, and they'll do one site visit, they do weekly check-ins, they make sure students are reaching their goals, and they're really there just to provide additional support, make meaning of the internship. So students are really supported in their internships. So what are things you could be doing now? The good thing is there's really not much you need to be doing now. If you want to start talking to your juniors, just kind of about maybe what type of experience they want to get out of their internship. So, for some students, they want to do an internship in an area that they think they want to pursue in college. Other students want to do an internship in an area maybe they think they are interested in or maybe have never been exposed to. And for other students, they just want to do an internship in an area that they know maybe they'll never have the opportunity to do again. And then self-design, it would be great if you start putting out maybe some feelers if they want to choose, design their own internship. And if any of you work for an organization or a company or a family member or know of an organization that may want to host an intern, we're always looking. So feel free to reach out to me. And that's really all. I will send all of this information in an email sometime during senior year. So I know it's kind of a lot that I threw at you, but and we also on the website we do have some information there as well. It's under students and then resources and then senior internship program. So you can find all of that there as well. So again, I'm Kelly Dalmazio, and does anyone have any questions before I take off? Yes. Sure.
What is the application for the site? Because I've heard, here and there, that sometimes it's like, I don't want to say free labor, but they're basically there to how do we make sure that the site has the responsibility to provide a valuable experience for everyone? Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
That they're not just, there, because 5 hours, that's a lot of time, like for the 24 hours, and so if it's not well used. I think it's what it's kind of waste of your time. So I just, in general, like what do you, how do you communicate to the host sites and like what do we expect? Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So I can speak to it a little bit, and I started in January, so Sue might be able to speak a little bit better. But so one thing new this year that we're doing is we're having the hosts and the students collaboratively have these very concrete goals. So that way the student and the host really know, like, this is what needs to be accomplished. And then we're having them kind of come up with the steps to take. So I think that's helpful for the site to really make sure, and then for the student to know this is what's expected of me. Here's how I'm gonna reach these goals because I know the steps. And then in the goal setting worksheet that I created, it also has what are you gonna do if there's an issue or a problem? How are we if the goal isn't being met? And that's also part of the faculty mentors that they are also, if we feel like the goals aren't being met or there's not enough work, then they would step in as well. We also have the sites, they are sending us ahead of time the descriptions of what the students should be doing. So, hopefully that there really should be some clear guidelines of what the student, but I'm hoping with the goals that will really help maybe make it a little more clear and help kind of keep a little more structure for our students. That's not to say there are, on occasion, some sites that maybe just, I know last year there really maybe was 1 or 2, and then we address it and we handle it. But yeah, anything else I missed with that question, Sue?
Well, as trite as it sounds, because I'm old, I get to say a lot of platitudes. It's exactly what your children will make it. And that's similar to pretty much the college application process also. So there are guidelines in place. But in 2019, we surveyed the seniors, and 85% of them had never had a paying job, had never even babysat, which is, to me, a frightening percent. So we're trying to give them experiences where, as Kelly mentioned, soft skills will be developed, because it's the soft skills at the end of the day that are going to get you hired. It's not your major, pretty much. I think it's a really great program, and I have to say Kelly's breathed some good new life into it, and I proudly will say it's the best program of any public high school in Fairfield County. So.
And in addition, so we do provide 2 trainings, and in the next training we do, I'm going to talk about with our students, and I know if they're at a hard age too, about how do we take initiative? You know, if we feel like things aren't going well or we're not getting enough work, how are we going to take initiative? Because I think sometimes too, in the situations where they're not having the best experience, that also is great times for them to be able to learn how to problem solve, how to work through, how to advocate, how to communicate. And so that's some of the stuff that we'll be talking about in the training. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Well, Kelly
Thank you,
Dalmazio,
Kelly.
reach out, email, call if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The main event. I'll try not to distractedly look behind me the entire time. I feel like I have somebody looking over my shoulder. So these are our social media accounts for the College and Career Center. We have an Instagram account too, but I try not to use it because I don't like going down the rabbit hole of bad information on Instagram. So let us be your curator. Let us be your readers for you. There's a lot of information out there that is word of mouth that probably does more harm than good. And if you hear something, you should always call your counselor up and verify it. But we'll put articles, information, scholarship information, stuff about our alums in different majors, all on the Twitter account and on the Facebook account. So even if you don't have a Twitter account, and there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't, but even if you don't, it's okay to open an account just to follow us. But again, we're trying to get information. If you are a reader like me and like the idea of having information from different professional sources, then I invite you to take a look at both of our social media platforms. So just to catch you up to date on what's been going on that is setting the foundation for the whole post-high school process, you either have already had or will have in the very near future a junior appointment with your school counselor and your junior to talk about college interests, starting to put a list together. Maybe you've already visited some schools, so they are either have happened or are ongoing. Your juniors have also picked out their courses for next year. Some of them are not cemented yet because there's an appeals process going on, but course selection has happened. And I reminded the juniors that this would be the last time that they ever selected high school courses, and they kind of went like this. So they don't realize how close they are to the finish line. And then last night was the second iteration or the second workshop. Thank you, PFA, for funding the college essay guy. Already up on the Writing Center website. So the NCHS Writing Center website is the first workshop along with the workbook. The second iteration or the second workshop will go up probably in the next day or so. So if your child had a commitment and could not attend, they'll be able to view both sites. Mindy Trimble, who does the session for the college essay guy, is very good, and there's a lot of good information on there.
Make sure my mic's on. So on March 19th, we had our in-school SAT. It was the first time that we had the fully digital SAT here at the school. Results are hopefully going to be coming out in the next few weeks or so. Just as a reminder, there's only a few colleges that are requiring test scores right now. So we have 90% of all colleges that are still test optional, which is something to keep in mind. And if you are curious about which schools are requiring the test, you can always go to, it's fairtest.org. That's a website that you can go to, and that will allow you to see the tests, or the colleges that are no longer test optional and require the SATs for admissions.
Did any of your kids report back about the SAT? Did they think the format was easier, harder, nothing? It was just a blip in their radar screen, huh? Okay. All the money the College Board sent on that, okay. On April 11th, next week, we are going to host a college interviewing workshop in the College and Career Center. All your student has to do is email me what lunch they have. We'll do it during their lunch block. They can bring their BLT with them. And we'll probably end up running 4 sessions during the lunch block. It's a day B for their edification. And the reason why we do it right before April break is so that if you're walking around Wake Forest campus, for example, where it's probably sunny and warm right at the moment, and the admissions rep says, oh, would you like to interview? That your child is not looking at you the same way they did with course selection, so that they could glide right into an interview. As senior year progresses and interviewing happens more in earnest, we do one-on-one mock interviews in the College and Career Center. And then comes April vacation. Have a good one. And if you're looking at colleges, make sure you have some fun during that experience also. I have included in the handouts for today, the online handouts, an article about parents' role during a college visit. I think how many of you, this is your first child going through this process? Okay, so you'll be in awe of how college has changed since you were there. The process has changed demonstrably, but the colleges physically have changed also. And you'll see why you'll be spending up to $90,000 a year on that education. So it's helpful if a kid has maybe a notebook in the car if you're doing a driving trip. And it's also helpful if you get a school newspaper while you're on campus. It's also helpful that you go into whatever their coffee shop is or whatever and see if you really see professors interacting with kids not in the classroom. You know, make the most of the experience, and then do your child a favor and hold your thoughts for the entire vacation. Don't say anything. And then when you get home, schedule a time to maybe talk about some of these things. But a 17-year-old brain needs time to process and can process stuff probably privately better than you asking them a million questions right away. So if they bring it up, great, but if not, no worries. That's pretty typical. I think we're going to talk about a little bit of the Common App, right?
Okay. On April 24th this year, all of the juniors will meet with their counselors, and we will show them the Common Application. The Common App has evolved quite a bit over the years, and no exception this year. Every year it's new in many ways. Overall, the first thing we'll do is get them signed up, and the Common App is set up with an overall application that's common to all the schools they're applying to. So that's demographics, family education, all things like that. Then each university has its own section within the Common Application. So the colleges actually get to ask questions specific to their needs at whatever university it is. So within, in the overall application, that's where the college essay appears. That's common to every college they apply to. And then within the universities and colleges that are on the list, you click on a college and it will give you its own set of questions. Those questions are very important, especially what are called short answer or supplemental questions, a lot of the short answer questions are 250 words, and that is very, very short. So students have to be concise. They have to have done their research. And I always remind my students to take notes every time they're on a website for their colleges. Take notes. If they're on a visit, take notes. If they go on a Zoom interview call with a current student, take notes, because with those notes, it will help them to answer those questions very specifically. It will show the college that they've done their research. So when a college says they don't track demonstrated interest, that's a different thing. When students show the college that they've done their research and they know why they're applying, that is the true, in my opinion, that's the true value of, it really is demonstrated interest. So one thing that I struggle with every year is that student who's throwing out applications because the Common App is so easy. And most colleges are on the Common App. There are only a few that we get every year that don't use the Common App, maybe only one.
Georgetown.
Yeah, so the temptation is to throw out too many applications. The Common App allows for 20 applications. And in my experience, students who apply to that many colleges have denial after deferral after denial in their senior year.
How many of you think 20 is a lot?
Yes.
Will you
thank
remember
goodness.
that? Will you remember that you thought that
Yeah.
come October?
And I've had students who every day in March and April and in February, denial, denial, denial. Why? In my opinion, how can you research 20 colleges effectively enough to do a good job on their individual application on the Common App? So that's how I feel. If you think it's like throwing darts, it is not at all like throwing darts.
And also, it's $65 to $100 an application.
Yeah.
You can spend your money on something way more fun, I'm sure,
yeah.
than 20 college applications.
So anyway, I think that is a very important thing to realize. There are other things as well. In the Common Application, your child will get to express to the colleges everything about themselves. They'll have their activities. Colleges will have their transcript, which is actually the most important document in the application. They'll have teacher recommendations talking about that student as a student in the classroom. They have their counselor recommendation, and we take a lot of time and trouble knowing how best to present every single student. And then they'll have the essay, and they'll have the short answer questions. And my point is, remember that if it takes 7 or 8 minutes, if it means that colleges take about 8 minutes to read the application, it's wise not to repeat anything. For example, in my recommendation, I will talk about this student's outside activities, how they contributed to our high school. And the student themselves would have that in the activity list. Do they want to write their essay on that? That's, in many ways, it's a repetition. It can be. And you don't want to repeat and using up that extra 2 minutes for that admissions representative on something they already know. You want to give them more, something they wouldn't know based on the rest of the application. The other thing that comes up is, should I submit my resume? I've got this great resume I did. The resume is most often a repetition. The resume should be just like the application, only often the resumes contain things that are just not important. So do you want that college taking one of those extra 2 minutes to read your resume when they already have your application? So we don't recommend that. Now, there are times when colleges, they say, go ahead, upload your resume. Students may want to. If those colleges know they have time to review that, fine. But generally speaking, do not submit the resume.
And the Common App will not allow you to.
No.
There's no
But
way
the
to upload it
individual-
unless the school accepts it.
Right. Some people uploaded an additional information, but I don't even think that that helps. But what they do in their individual section of the Common App, if the school allows a resume, you can upload it in that section. So what we do on the Common App rollout, I will tell students, okay, this is what we can do right now. And then in the summer, here's the essay. In July, you can work on your essay. For the short answer questions and all of the information for the colleges they're actually applying to, I advise to wait until August 1st because the Common App rolls over, and I'll talk about that in a minute, I think.
Yeah, or now, you know.
Okay,
We'll-
so the Common App,
We'll glance over it.
the Common App every year rolls over to the new school year or the new class. So for you all, it's the class of 2025. The colleges change their questions, they change their deadlines, they change all kinds of things year to year. And the important thing is those short answer questions that are very important, they also change those, so you don't want to get ahead of yourself and have your student answer those short answer questions before August 1st, and then come to find out those questions were for last year's class. You want to make sure it's for this year's class. And so that August 1st gives them a lot of time to focus on that. And then there are also some pieces of the Common App that have to be left until they come back to school. So we'll go over that as well. It's not useful to get ahead of themselves and get it all done in the summer. It's better to take it step by step.
All right, so I'm gonna hop into teacher recommendations. And so whenever I meet with a student and their parents, I always ask, who are at least 2 teachers that you want to recommend you? And most of the time, students believe they have to be in the STEM fields. And I always want to tell them, you want your recommenders to be in the area of interest that you're going in for a major. And if you're going in as undeclared, you want someone that's going to be able to represent you well as a student in the classroom and talk about how well you participate. Are you a leader? So to give you the attributes and help give a good idea of what type of learner that you are. As far as the school counselor recommendations, Ann touched upon it, we give the more holistic viewpoint. How are they a citizen in their community, so and in their school? And the biggest thing is that teacher recommendations for some schools might be very important. They might have 2 or 3 that they ask for. Some schools may only require 1. So this is all information just to keep on your radar. Your student might be wanting to make sure they have one main teacher that they know is going to represent them very well, and that's going to be their primary recommender. And then they'll have another person that will recommend them as well. In Common App, it might talk about teacher recommenders. We always tell students, don't submit your teacher recommendations through Common App. That's not what it's for. That's what we use Naviance for. As far as, let me see if I'm missing anything. Oh, students should be asking their teachers in person before summer break, and that's mainly because they want to put it on their teacher's radar. Ask them, make sure there's going to be space. Some teachers have tons of students asking them, and they might put a limit on the amount of students that they'll write for. It's also good because some teachers might have a form to have the students fill out so that the students can give them a little bit more information on themselves so the teacher can write a better recommendation or feel like they have more information to write upon. So just a few things that your students need to start thinking about. It's always going to be a teacher from junior year anyways. It would really be better if they had someone who is able to represent the most recent version of themselves anyway. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, teaching, this whole thing about teacher recommendations and asking for it, your kids are skilled at texting people. They need to walk up, look the teacher in the eye, and ask for the recommendation. It would be lovely if they followed it up with a handwritten thank you note. Teachers write recommendations on their own time, not during the school day. So this is, and they write great recommendations. If your child asks the teacher and the teacher says, you know what, I really can't write for you, don't be insulted, move on to the next one. It means that they feel like they don't know you well enough to write a recommendation. And don't necessarily have your student go for the teacher where they got a 98 in the class. Struggle is a great thing to write a recommendation about. And in that AP US history class, I'm betting there was some struggle. So, you know, what you want is for a teacher to be able to tell the story. The counselors tell great stories about your kids. But that's the important piece, that they do it in person and they follow it up with some kind of note. Okay? Yeah?
Question, you mentioned two things earlier. One is ideally area of your major, and two, somebody who can speak to how you are in class. Let's say the better teacher recommendation is out of the area of your major. What would you prioritize?
I would always
Or
say,
someone who knows you better.
pick the teacher that knows you best and is going to write about you in a glowing manner.
Any other questions about recommendations or the rollout? Yeah.
Do the students see the recommendations?
They-
Constituent teachers?
They will sign, well, there is a waiver that, you're going to hear all about this in September again, but repetition is good. There's a waiver, it's probably one of the first adult things besides getting a driver's license your kids will see, where if they choose to, they will waive their ability to see the recommendation. 99.9% of the kids will waive, because a teacher can turn around if you don't waive and say, I don't really want to write for you. And it isn't because they're not going to say something great about your kids. They would have not agreed to recommend them. It's so that they can speak freely, which I think is very important, and I think very important to the admissions folks. So that is something that happens at the beginning of senior year. School counselors will go in and meet with all of your seniors, and they will discuss the waiver, the FERPA waiver.
I ask because, you know, back to being efficient on the Common App and what you write versus, you know, something that's repeated elsewhere. So just for them to have a rough idea of what's being covered, so there isn't that repeat.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't worry so much about repetition in recommendations.
Right.
I think that just tells, yeah, that's a little bit different. I think what Ms. Vernon is touching upon is there are very few precious lines on the Common App. Don't put the same thing on 3 different places.
But teachers saying the same thing, 2 different teachers saying the same thing about your student is like reinforcing. So that's a different situation, yeah.
And last thing about waiver, if you chose to not sign the waiver and that you wanted to see a teacher recommendation, the only time you could do it is when you got accepted to that college and matriculated to that college, and then you would ask the college to see it. Anything else about, yeah?
Are the letters submitted directly or through the guidance?
They're submitted through Naviance, which is our document submitting platform. Yeah,
The guidance counselor doesn't see it or does?
Right.
nope.
We don't see them. We don't see the teacher recs.
Any other questions about that? Okay, so we already spoke about the college essay workshop that took place. Again, thank you, PFA. I saw Sarah just walk in. Thank you, PFA, for the funding. But also, if your child feels like they need a little more utzing, for lack of a better term, there is a workshop hosted by Darren Bruce, the writings specialist for the district, The information is, again, on the digital handouts to register for that. It happens right after the school year ends. It's 2 or 3 days long, and kids usually walk out of that with a college essay. The college essay prompts based on the Common App have not changed this year. They're the same as there were last year. But interestingly enough, sometimes kids have an essay in June. They go to the workshop and they produce an essay. And then they write another one come September because they've grown or something has happened. Your kids have been writing essays since 3rd grade. 3-paragraph essays have been going on since 3rd grade. Don't make this bigger than it really is. And don't have so many pairs of eyes on it that your child's voice is completely lost, which is what most admissions people are saying now about college essays. That there's specialists hired, that they're, you know what, again, 3 5-paragraph essay, that's what it is. Any other comments about essays? No?
Essays, as I said before, tell them something new about you that they wouldn't know. This is what I tell the students, that they wouldn't know from the rest of your application.
And it should only be a story that you can write, that nobody else can write it.
An experience, an incident, something they learned the hard way can be a great essay. Very reflective. I've seen a lot of essays about clubs. That's something that is rarely very interesting because it's in the application for other reasons. Sometimes, mission trips can be, you can make a great essay about something that happened in a mission trip or a basketball game, but not about the trip itself. And the best essays I have seen for, say, mission trips, they don't mention that it was on a mission trip. College can figure that out. So that makes it stronger. So they do know how to write. And we have an excellent writing center where, and what I always recommend to students, do a good rough draft in the summer, then come back in September and take your essay to the writing center. They will help you polish it up, and you can really count on the writing center, on the English teachers here at our high school, to know what they need, how they need to project themselves without being too careful.
Yeah, the
Being
writing
too
center.
careful is when it
Can't
gets
say enough
boring.
about the writing center. It's awesome, awesome.
It's a no-brainer, plus some of the, workshops we have.
Yep, agreed.
So one of the best things I think that we have, that we give to our students is the senior profile and the parent brag sheet. I can tell you 100% as a new counselor this year, this helped me beyond measure when it came to writing their recommendation. So at the end of the school year, the juniors are going to be given access to a Google Doc that's called a senior profile. They'll make a copy of it, and it is pretty much a resume of everything they've done in school, what clubs they've been a part of, what academic achievements they've had, any awards that they've gotten. Are they an athlete? Are they an artist? Are they a musician? So anything that can be put on there should go on there. Even if they don't think it's such a big deal, maybe it is. Did they get a seal of biliteracy in the world language that they studied, or is there a world language that they speak at home and that they took the seal of biliteracy for? I would say students who utilize this, it's so helpful for them not only to have something for their school counselor to help with the letter of recommendation, but also when they go to start filling out information on their own.
Yeah.
So that's
Coming
one.
up with essay ideas, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
huge.
As they reflect on what they've done, yeah.
Yeah. So they can put on whether or not they've had jobs. And there's also an area that asks about their interests. What's a book you really like, or what's a TV show you really like? And then there's a section for other information. What other information do you want maybe your counselor or teacher to write about? So that's I think one of the most important things that I get, as well as the parent brag sheet. I wasn't able to be here long enough to know the seniors this year, but through the parent brag sheets, I learned so much. And that also helped me write phenomenal recommendations for my seniors. And it was something that I appreciated. So you'll be getting something to allow you to write about your children and everything that they've done or who they are at home and what type of personality do you see them having? What are their character traits? What is their work ethic? What are their values? It just helps reinforce everything that we know about them and that we can put in our recommendations as well.
Also, specific examples of those qualities that you know about in your children. If you can give us specifics, it really helps us to characterize that student well. Back up.
And
back up
also,
our claims. Yeah.
I back in the day when my daughter was going through this process, I did one, and I had my husband do one also. It was amazing the different points of view. His was very professional, and mine was all gooey. But you put them together, and you have a really good idea about the students. So I suggest to you that if there's that both parents, whether you live together or not, maybe write the recommendation, the brag sheet. So we're almost at senior year. We're gonna maybe visit some more colleges this summer. Again, process is ongoing, notes, conversations about it. And that will bring us to really senior year.
So in the beginning of the senior year, we have the one-to-one meeting, which I found to be one of the most enjoyable parts of the beginning of the school year. We have the time to speak with each senior one-on-one and find out a little bit more about them. We talk about their brag sheet. Did they fill out their senior profile for us, or is there time for us to fill it out together? In this time too, we're looking over their lists. Are they comfortable with what they have? Do they have enough targets? Do they have enough likelies? Do they have enough reaches? It's really a time to make sure that they're comfortable, that the stress of everything isn't overwhelming, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help them so that they're not stressing out over what schools are they going to get into and how am I going to make myself sound good, right? Like, your children are phenomenal children. They already sound good based on everything that they've done. So they just need that reinforcement and understanding what they're able to tell is in a story and say, well, have you looked at this college as a likely, or have you looked at this as a target school? So really that time is for them to make sure that they aren't missing anything, and to also give them a little update. So once they are ready to start applying to schools and everything looks good, it's their first time we get to tell them, we're going to have to start filling out transcript request forms, and this is where you find it. So there's another step that we add to it as well. So I would say that the one-on-one senior meeting is the okay, we're back at school, it's time to start thinking about applications, making sure that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, and that you feel comfortable and confident in the next steps.
And while all of that is going on, colleges will visit us starting in September. We will see probably 150, 200 colleges that will come to us, which is great, especially if the college has been geographically distant and difficult to get to. It's great for the college to be able to see where your kids go to school, to look at the artwork, to see the resources, frankly, that we have. We shouldn't shy away from the fact that we have a few resources here. And it's great to for the seniors to be able to ask questions directly of the rep. 90% of our visitors are the first read of your child's application. So we only allow seniors to attend these visits because at this point, they're the consumers, they're kicking tires, and they should be able to ask specific questions, major-driven questions. Colleges will say, we're an R1 research university. I hear that pretty much at every visit. Do you all know what an R1 research? Yeah. And the kids are like, huh? An R1 research university offers doctorates in subjects and also commits $50 million to research. So if your child is thinking of a field that would be research-driven, an R1 research university might be one or two or three of them that they want on their radar screen. But they get to ask one-on-one questions of the reps, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that we have as far as having visits here on campus.
I'm going to talk about, oh, yes.
Colleges do come, is there a schedule, we have that scheduled by, I don't know, June, July, August, so we'll know which colleges are coming and when?
Okay. About 150, 200 colleges come. We see 3 or 4 a day. There's 2 weeks where, thank goodness, I have volunteers because we literally see two or three colleges every period, every half period. So your kids will be excused for class. There's sign-up sheets. So as soon as the rep leaves my office, the attendance sheet goes to the attendance office. So it can't be used for skipping class. The list will be available on Naviance and also on the New Canaan High School calendar. It'll say college visits. You can click on it, and it will tell you every college that's coming. And then also, because I am a visual person myself, I actually print the darn thing out, and it looks like it goes on for 3 days, and I put it on a bulletin board. So your kids will know. And I see kids walk up with their phones all the time and take a picture of the list, even though they have it on Naviance and they have it on the school calendar. So, okay.
Also, any college that is in their Naviance list of colleges I'm thinking about or colleges I'm applying to will show when the visit is.
Yeah.
And there's a little RSVP button.
Yeah.
They can sign up through Naviance.
Yeah, I didn't want
Get
to.
an email.
I didn't want to bury the lead. We have a slide for that. But yeah, they have to RSVP. They can't just show up. They have to. This whole thing, again, I keep talking about the bridge to adulthood. This is thoughtfulness. This is a thoughtful process, and I don't mean thoughtfulness in kindness. I mean thoughtfulness like you're thinking about what you're doing. I have a physics test at 9 a.m. Tuesday. Haverford is coming at 9 a.m. Tuesday. What do I do? On the bridge to adulthood, we got to start making decisions here. How do we handle 2 things happening at once? What can I do? Well, you can come in and fill out a form saying, I can't attend the visit, but I'm interested in your college, and I will give it to the rep. So again, this is about college admissions, I know, but it's about growing up, too, and trying to figure this stuff out. Any other questions about college visits? Okay, moving on.
Yep, there is one.
Oh, sorry.
If your child is interested in a school that's coming to visit and they don't sign up in time, can't get into the meeting, do you recommend that they do that form?
Some meetings will be topped out population-wise because I just don't have the room. You know, for example, when Indiana comes, don't tell the fire marshal, but there's 45 kids stuffed in my office. So, don't tell the fire marshal. Yeah, and if they didn't sign up and they're looking at me with those big brown eyes and they're like, Mrs. Carroll, come on. Do you think I'm going to say no? Of course not. So we'll just figure out a way. They can sit in my seat. Any other questions? Okay.
So every October, we have a financial aid night. It's typically, in the past several years, it's been online on Zoom. This year, was it in person?
No, it was on Zoom again.
It was on Zoom again. So, yeah, that's right. And so it's every year, the financial aspects of your application are going to change. And also, every college has a different way of looking at your federal aid or your institutional aid, which is through the college. So it's useful to view this every year. It is the older Zoom meetings are on our website under video presentations. So I believe the past 2 years are still on there. And those are helpful, but so much has changed that I do recommend using, coming or signing up for the Zoom call, the webinar for October. One thing that has changed this year is the FAFSA application. And you all are lucky to be in the second year of the rollout this year.
Maybe they'll get it fixed by October.
Maybe, and I've even heard some people say, oh, I hear they're going back to the old FAFSA. Who knows? But I think that in your case, it will be easier to navigate. The other thing that we'll talk about are scholarships that are available from thousands of organizations. And there's a site called FastWeb, which is a scholarship search engine that when students go in, they put in a profile. It includes, their interests academically, their demographics, extracurriculars, community service, and then that system will send them recommendations of scholarships that suit them. It goes through the thousands of scholarships out there and shoots out some that you might be interested in. So that's a really nice thing to know. We also have local scholarships that are only for New Canaan students. There's the New Canaan High School Scholarship Foundation that has, many scholarships within it. There's Sapienza, which is a community scholarship, and the Exchange Club.
The Exchange Club, Kiwanis.
Kiwanis.
There's a couple besides Sapienza, under the New Canaan Community Foundation. Another reason to give to the New Canaan Community Foundation. So all of these things between FastWeb and, the scholarship applications require time, but time is money. And in this case, that's very important for your kids to understand. We said it at the October meeting when we all gathered to talk about the year ahead. If this is, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but on the bridge to adulthood, you talk about money. And we often don't talk about money with our kids. And this is definitely a dining room conversation. How are you going to pay for this? I don't care if you can write out that check for $85,000 every year and not blink an eye. Your child needs to know that, and they need to know why can you do that? How have you saved? What things have you put into place? If your child is loving a college, is loving Tufts more than anything, and Tufts just jumped to the $90,000 mark, okay, how are you going to pay $90,000 for that? Well, you might have to ask for financial aid. You might not qualify for financial aid, so you need merit money that you don't have to pay back. How will you get merit money? Well, maybe you don't go to Tufts. Maybe if you can do Tufts level work with your GPA and scores, maybe you apply to Gettysburg and become a presidential scholar at Gettysburg. And I will tell you, the education at Gettysburg is just as good, regardless of the $90,000, as it is at Tufts. So these are conversations that should be happening. And if you're not having these conversations, you're robbing your child of an opportunity on that bridge to adulthood about understanding this, so that when they go to buy their first house, when they have to pay their phone bill and get off your plan, how does all of this happen? So financial aid night is mostly for parents, but it doesn't hurt to have your child sit in on the Zoom also. And the other thing that I will add is the reason why FAFSA changed is because it was too complicated. It had 137 questions on it. It now has 15 questions. It will take you 10 minutes to fill out. It will interface with your taxes. So it will make it much more seamless. But most private colleges also require a College Board product called the CSS profile. So the reason why I speak about these things is when my own child went to college, we paid for college. We only had one child, we saved, we paid. But my child wanted a job on campus. She was invited to do research with a professor. It turned out we never filled out a FAFSA because we didn't think we needed to, and all jobs are through financial aid at most colleges. So when you go to think about whether you should or shouldn't, also consider my remarks, okay? Any other questions about financial aid? Okay.
So Naviance is going to be your students' best friend in the next couple months. It is where they're going to be able to understand a lot about themselves. In the past, we've had programs with them to let them know what careers they might be interested in, what types of skills they have, what type of person they are. So they've been using it, but sparingly. Now is when they're going to be using it much more. It's our hub, I guess is the best way to put it. So colleges we have college research and admission data on there that the students are able to see. They can access that as they go and search and use the website. It's also where we have all of the information, not the Common App, but all of the information like their transcripts, their teacher recommendations, our recommendations to be sent out to the colleges. The Naviance homepage, this is what it looks like. You do not have access to it, but your children do. And if you would like to ask them to share information with you, they can. That way you can see what they're up to and looking at colleges. On the home screen, they're able to see the colleges that they're thinking about. They can search for colleges. They can navigate from here. But it's really like a one-stop shop for them to be able to do the college search. At the top, once they do have information in there and they've gotten a list together that they want to explore, it'll be found in the colleges I'm thinking about section. From there, they can go on and they can click through, compare, contrast, explore the websites, explore virtual tours, see the data that's available to them. It's extremely important, too, to make sure that they're interacting and like Anne had mentioned, taking notes, writing down information that is going to make them stand out if they are applying to their schools, what is unique to this school that is also unique to them, how they can be a good fit there. But once they do fill out the colleges I'm thinking about, they'll get the whole list. And not only is that list important for them to be able to access the information of the schools, but it's also important for the schools to be able to send them information either via email or in snail mail. So that's something that they'll be getting to once they get put their list together.
In colleges, as I'm thinking about, this eventually gets moved into colleges I'm going to apply to. Please don't mess with this. Your inclination might be to add or delete. This is the reason why it's under your child's name is because it belongs to your child. But it is through this list, you're smiling, but this happens, and all of a sudden kids are like, I didn't apply there. Why? This is the list through which the invitation to college visits is generated. So Naviance will send an email to every kid who's got XYZ college on their list saying so-and-so is coming on Thursday, do you want to go? They click the box, they get on the list. Okay? Yeah, Jerry?
Has access to that information, just your child, right?
And your child's guidance counselor?
But the colleges don't see that.
No. The colleges do not see it at all. Yeah.
Is there any way to limit communication from colleges to the students? Like, my older child, it was kind of overwhelming, actually.
Yeah.
All of the
Yes.
It is overwhelming. And you can, no, the answer is pretty much no. You just don't open the stuff. So, you can you can have your child create a Gmail account, susancarrollcollege@gmail.com, and all information will go to that. Also, when you go to the colleges, they'll oftentimes hand you a view book. You're going to get that view book by email also. The reason why, if it's a college you care about, you don't want to be dismissive of this. So every time your child gets emailed by a college, the college can tell whether you opened the email or not. The college can probably tell you how long you spent on the email. When you go visit a college's website, so you're on the University of Notre Dame's website, and you go to their engineering page, University of Notre Dame is tracking junior's time on that webpage, and that might generate an email to junior about the engineering program at Notre Dame. So on this whole thing about demonstrated interest, part of that is going to physically visit the college, or if it's geographically difficult, contacting the college, going on their virtual visits. But make no bones about it, they are tracking your time interacting with them, and they have records of that. Some have very specific records, and some have very general records. If you're University of California and you have 180,000 applications every year, you don't really care how much time you spent on the art website. But if you're Williams College, you care. So you can be dismissive and just not open stuff, and you'll fall off their radar screen. But if you're interested, have your kids open it up. Yeah.
Is it important to open it up when it comes, or if you open it 3 months later and that's what?
Well, I don't know. They pretty much all use the same companies, the colleges. I would think the inclination would be that, if you're excited about something, you open it pretty quickly. If you had an email saying you just won $1 million, you'd open it quickly. The colleges view themselves in that way. But no, I think within a week or so, kids are busy, and kids don't like email. They don't really like email. And when you go to visit colleges, on the card that you're filling out, which child should be using their proper legal given name, but they're filling out, they'll say, "Can we text you?" God help you if you say yes. So as you're driving down to Lehigh, that's a conversation to have before you hit Lehigh. But they are tracking. And you pretty much can't escape it, unless you physically don't go visit any colleges and don't fill anything out. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay.
Is it okay to use the school email? I mean, I know you made that recommendation about the separate Google, but if
It was just, it's funny that you say that, because I know we got to move along, but it's funny that you just say that, because while you're out visiting colleges, so are our college counselors. Anne recently has been to Texas. She just went to SMU, TCU, University of Texas at Dallas. I'm setting up two counselors just went to every college pretty much in Tennessee. Who knew they had so many? Somebody else just went to Massachusetts. Sarah Drexel's going to New Hampshire next week. So anyhow, I set up all the visits. So I set up Sarah's visit at Dartmouth, and I put in Sarah's name, and then a prompt came up. Your email address. We suggest you do not use your school email address. That was on Dartmouth's website. I thought, now I wonder why that is. But it's probably because of this, because they understand your school, you get enough emails from school about New Canaan High School stuff. Put it on your personal email. So, yeah.
Just a really quick question. Why do they ask for the parents' emails?
Pardon?
Why are they asking for the parents' emails as well? Like,
So that when you're sitting around the dinner table talking to your child, you can say, oh no, I read the email where blah, 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 blah. And also they know that your child is less inclined to open emails. But your generation will open an email. So God help, when this current high school class gets to be your age, God help, I don't know how we're going to be communicating at that point, but.
do you know if they track the parents' emails?
I'm sure that they do. I'm sure that they do. 100%, I'm sure that they do, yeah.
So let's go on to the next. This, within Naviance, once you're in college, as I'm thinking about, you can click on a college. This example is the University of Vermont, and there's a lot of information that is useful for you. In this case, what I find really important is how many students graduate in 4 years. And for a big university, this is pretty much what you get, 65%. And that's something to take into account because what does that mean?
Ooh, sorry.
It can mean a lot of different things. One thing in my experience that has affected in my own family is that the registration for classes they were all booked up for the classes my child needed to graduate or to complete his major. So how hard is it to get the classes you need? Or do students take off a year and work? So the 4-year graduation rate is helpful because what if you have to pay for one more year of college? Then that takes away the financial benefit of going to a state or public university. It has, on the left, it's the average tuition costs, and you can, look at this on Naviance, but let's turn on to the next. So for Lafayette, I'll give you an example here. 83% graduate in 4 years. So it may be a more expensive college, but you're going to graduate in 4 years. They're going to make sure you can graduate. It's a smaller college, and so they can be more personal. Another thing you see here is the acceptance rate. That is for New Canaan. For all New Canaan students that applied to Lafayette this is about probably 10 years,
Yeah.
about 30% were accepted. And then for some colleges, you will get the overlaps, the 10 other colleges most often applied to for students who applied to Lafayette. Now, big universities like in Indiana will never show us the overlaps because too many kids applied there. And same with the University of Vermont. We get many more applications to some of those schools where the overlaps are really no longer useful, I guess, or valid. So, what else? And then this is a scattergram. Given the example of Lafayette, the green check marks show who was accepted. On the horizontal axis, it's the scores, whether SAT or ACT. And on the vertical, it's the GPAs. This is only New
Yeah,
Canaan.
just
All
New
of
Canaan.
what I'm talking about is just for New Canaan High School. It's much more useful to use Naviance data than national data. Because I've said to my fellow counselors, we have colleges where everybody gets in, everyone, even students with grades in the C's.
Isn't that comforting?
And
It's marvelous.
when you go to their info session, they tell you that the average accepted student has a 3.5. That's a 90. That's not the case for New Canaan. We have a very, we all know this is an excellent high school, the best in the state as far as I've ever seen, and it's all in the data for the state. So colleges know that. They know we have a demanding curriculum. We make it possible for students to do well because of our culture with our faculty. They work with students. They expect students to come and see them. So colleges will, often will say, oh, he has a 78 average. He got in, but they told me it was a 3.5 that he needed. So that's a pretty nice thing. So this data is more useful than national data.
And this is 3 years' worth of data.
3 years.
And you should take a look at it.
Yeah.
Remember the list where you all thought 20 was excessive, was a lot of
Yeah.
colleges to apply to? This is very helpful in honing the list.
Yes, it is. It's also helpful before you go visit a college. So I always use the example of Washington University in St. Louis, one of the very top schools in the country, no doubt. Look at the scattergram. We might have 2 students who got in there over the last 3 years or 5 years. And all the others are red X's. So is it worth a plane fare to go out because you heard great things about Wash U? Probably not. So,
How do you reconcile the scattergram with the percentage you had on the prior? So here you have.
oh, good idea. Yes, good. So on the other screen, that, you have to look at the dates that it covers. This is 3 years of data. We don't collect more data because it would be so hard to look at. It'd be like we have Indiana University. If you look at that, there are too many data points to really get much out of it. The other screens often use about 9 or 10 years of data, so just check, make sure you're looking at that. But it's generally 30% is, with a glance, you can see, yeah, it's about 30%.
This is my favorite slide. This is my reality check slide. Everyone take a picture. I would have worn makeup had I known. So 153 kids applied to UConn this year. That's 50% of the senior class. Let's let that soak in for a minute. 153 kids applied to UConn. Now, they're going to accept a bunch of kids. Are they going to accept 153 kids for the Storr campus? No, they are not. 79 students applied to the University of Michigan. University of Michigan is a fine school. At least 79 kids thought so. Will they take 79 of our wonderful kids from New Canaan High School? They will not. They'll take a bunch of kids. They're not going to take 79. With test optional being what it is, kids think, well, I have a 92 average. I could probably get in there. I'm not going to submit scores. I took a couple of APs. I write a good essay. I was a solid citizen. You can apply to Michigan. No one will stop you. But if you looked at the scattergrams before you hit submit, you might say, it's a reach. It's great to have reaches. Everyone should have reaches. But also, we need to look at where we can get in, absolutely, and what's a target for us. So you'll see, Indiana, I don't know one kid ever in my 22 years working here that went to Indiana and wasn't happy. Bloomington's a lovely place to go to school, and for some reason, that place has just got magic. Kids are very, very happy there. 79 kids, though.
Yeah.
Syracuse, 76 kids. It's a lot of kids. Now, granted, at some places like Syracuse, you're applying to a program within a university. So how many of this are Newhouse? We have a great TV broadcasting program here. Amazing. How many are architects? How many are School of Nursing, School of Engineering? All of that plays into the application pool, but you can't see that on Naviance. It will not tell you if it's a college within a college. So the reason why I think this is important is, you know, if you like Boston College, who doesn't? 64 kids loved it this year. My husband went to BC. He thinks it's the only school in the world. But if you like BC, why wouldn't you look at Marquette in Wisconsin, which is Wisconsin's version of Boston College? It could take you 3 hours to drive to BC. You could get to Wisconsin quicker by plane. And it's a fabulous school. As you go down, the only really surprise in this to me is Bucknell at 55. Bucknell has always been an important school for us. Kids really like it there. 55 kids, it's a lot of applications to a small liberal arts college. What you will see from this list with what we've been seeing this year, actually since 2020, since the pandemic, is our students seem to be being drawn to large public universities where there's a lot going on campus and where there are schools within a school. Perhaps you're thinking, my diploma will be worth more because it is from the university, it's from Syracuse University's School of Engineering. Great name of a school, and I went to the engineering school. So I think if you like any of these schools, there's a plenty of, at the 30 mark, Providence had 50 applications this year. If you love Providence, why wouldn't you look at University of Dayton? They're very, very similar schools. Maybe you're a Providence alum and you're saying, no, Sue, they're not. But they are. They are actually very similar schools. Your school counselors are very adept at giving you overlaps, schools that are very similar to that school that has a juggernaut of applications. Naviance will also give you overlap schools. So I just think, casting a wide net is smart, I guess is the best way to say it. I've been, again, doing this for 22 years. I've never seen it not work out. And that's an amazing thing to be able to say. I have never seen it not work out. You might be nervous about it for your child, but I have never seen it not work out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does it help if the child's parents are alums of the university anymore? That's like,
Depends on the school. A Jesuit college likes alums. But, they like alums better if it comes with a $10 million wing to the library. And some states, Connecticut is one of them, in front of the state legislature right now is a bill to get rid of legacy in both public and private admissions. So, depends on the school would be my answer.
Second question, if your child is pretty sure they know what they want to major in, and let's use Syracuse as an example, is it better that you go in and you say, yes, I want to go to Newhouse? Or do you have a better chance of getting into Syracuse with so many folks, and this is only in high school? Who knows what all the other high schools around are,
Right.
the kids are applying? Do you have a better chance of getting into the School of Liberal Arts versus Newhouse?
So this is why college admissions, they say, is an art, not a science. Because that will be true at some places. At some places, for example, University of Colorado, the rep came, kids were asking, what about business school? What about School of Engineering? And, he said, look at the scores, look at the statistics, look at the GPAs. Maybe if you can't get into engineering, you apply general. But then you then have to reapply to engineering after your first year. So that means getting straight A's. So that's a question. When you are all going to visit colleges, ask them and write a note to yourself about what they said. Say it because it's not, I think you would agree, ladies, right? It's not a blanket conversation.
Every college is different.
Every college is different. You wish
Also-
that they weren't, but that's the truth of it.
Well, a lot of this you can find when your child is on the common application for University of Colorado Boulder. It will give you some information about whether, if they want to see your first choice major, and if that is not possible, do you have a second choice? And will they look at the second choice major? And
Some schools will.
yeah. Some of them will just automatically say no, but you can come to the School of Liberal Arts or Arts and Sciences.
And, that's true a lot of business schools. Kids say this to me all the time. I only want the business school.
Right.
Okay, go to liberal arts and be an econ major.
Right.
You can still take classes in the business school.
Yes, you can
Kids
minor.
have such tunnel vision. And that's why, again, some of the stuff that you read out there is nuts. It really is. Some of the Instagrammable stuff. There are ways of getting your degree from that college. And oftentimes it can be done through the School of Liberal Arts by choosing the right major, because you can still take classes at the other schools.
Or get a minor.
Yeah, or get a minor.
Yeah.
So, again, I think big picture is really important to think and not narrow focus at this point. Does anybody else have any other questions, or do we exhaust you? Yeah.
Going back to what you said about the interviews, how important are they as part of the admissions process? And if a student is approached on a visit, how do they handle that?
Well, you know your kids better than I at this point. But I would say 99% of the time you should interview, even if the school does not count it as part of the process. If it's just an informational interview, which is what usually happens at larger universities. Unless you have a child who literally cannot speak and look someone in the eye, then that's the only kid that shouldn't interview. If some are alumni interviews, if you apply to an Ivy League school, for example, except for Columbia, if you apply to Georgetown, for example, once the application has been submitted, you will be asked, do you want to interview? Columbia doesn't do interviews anymore. And you should always say yes, and that's when I do all of these one-on-one interviews. But it's and also, again, it's a great life experience for kids to interview. They're going to be doing it for a big chunk of their life. And I always say to kids, or I think when they leave the room after a one-on-one interview, I can tell the kids that eat dinner as a family because they can talk. They can listen. They can make small talk. This generation, very bad with small talk because it's all this. So interviews are a good thing, and I'm happy to help shine your kids up so they can show themselves in their best light.
Does Navion split out information according to campuses for like large universities like Penn State, University Park? Is that information solely does it encompass all, satellite campuses and main campus, or do you guys have more specific information?
What I would do, don't get into Naviance in that detail. It doesn't really give you that level of detail. Go on the website for the university, and they will have usually links for all their other campuses, like Penn State, and all their majors, all their schools within the university.
As
So,
far as understanding the admission rate
no,
students for main campus,
No, it's just going to tell you the
Just the
main
what?
campus.
it looks like it's, high percentage, and then in reality, no one's getting onto the main.
But when you go to visit Penn State, it's a great question to ask.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot of money on college. Ask a couple of difficult questions. I mean,
absolutely.
your children won't sit next to you ever again if you do. But you should be asking that. Like, what percent gets branched? UConn, that's our state university. What percent of the kids are you branching that are in-state students, that our tax dollars are paying for this university? So, you can ask those questions. And then write it down, write your information down.
I think, like in my eldest daughter's experience, she had very high GPA, but she was put in Stanford. How did she want to major in business? So
Right.
it might be relative to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, kids, now sometimes you get accepted for a January start date.
Right.
Like you won't do your fall there. Some kids are shocked or horrified by the thought. Sometimes they saw something in your application that went, oh, this person is a unique individual. They would do well starting in January. And sometimes it isn't. It's just a question of space on campus. We'll have more beds open when kids go abroad second semester. So again, the application, in the years that I've been doing this has become it's much more nuanced than it was 15 years ago, certainly when you all were applying to college. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
As far as demonstrated interest, if you're visiting a school and their tour is full, so you're self-touring, are there any extra steps you should take to show that interest?
Yes, if it's a school that will track demonstrated interest, I would then, when you get home, I would have your student, not you, have your student send an email to the admissions office saying, the tour was full, I walked around the campus, I loved it, I have more questions about, are you coming to New Canaan High School? I'll check in with you then. That is a touch. Every time you touch the college, it's appreciated by the college, if it's a school that tracks demonstrated interest. Anything else? Yeah.
How do you know if the school tracks demonstrated interest?
Well, you could ask them.
You can Google it.
You can Google it, yeah. There's this guy named George Fan, he keeps track of all this information out there. So if you Google schools that track demonstrated interest, one of his charts will come up. But again, even though they say that they don't track demonstrated interest, if it gets down to the wire in regular decision, or say you get waitlisted at a large state university, maybe University of Vermont, and Rose never opened an email from University of Vermont, never visited, didn't come when they came to visit New Canaan High School, but me, on the other hand, opened every email and came to the visit at New Canaan High School, and we have the exact same GPA. Who's Vermont going to take? Sorry, Rose. So even though Vermont doesn't track demonstrated interest. Anything else? Okay, thank you for your attention. You were terrific.
Thank you.